Hello, YouTube. So, first, I'm going to start with defining ego. So, according to Google, it basically means your consciousness, your sense of self. So, basically, who you are from the surface, but not at your core. So, when you're struggling and you tell yourself, I can't do this, I don't want to do this anymore, or if you're trying to introspect and you keep telling yourself, I don't know, and you're not really digging deep and giving yourself answers that you know you deserve, that's your ego talking. That's your consciousness. Because all these things that you need to dig deep for, they're subconscious and unconscious behaviors, thoughts, beliefs. So when you're struggling, there's something that you don't want to accept. There's something that your ego, your conscious self is not allowing you to see because of your unconscious or your subconscious is keeping that covered so that you can keep going on with your life being ruled by your ego and being ruled by your consciousness. You have these patterns that you go through on a daily basis, whether that's what you do physically, what you think mentally. It's mental stuff. Thinking, what you think, what you believe. You put yourself in these categories that only you can break out of. No one else can break out of it for you. They can help you, but they can't break out of it for you. You're in full control of this reality you've created, because your conscious is helping reinforce that, but your unconscious is what is truly causing that reality. So whenever you want to shift realities, you have to shift your unconscious, and in order to do that, you have to let your ego get out of the way so that you can really dig deep. And instead of saying, I don't know, you have to actually let yourself think. You have to let yourself uncover what's going on in your unconscious. And sometimes your ego is covering those parts of you because it's protecting you, because it doesn't want you to uncover these things, because then you're starving your ego and you're being vulnerable to the truth. But that's the only way to grow. That's the only way to get out of your comfort zone, is to be vulnerable, right? When you're struggling and you're telling yourself, I don't know how to get out of this. I don't know what to do. I can't do it. I can't do this. I can't do that. This sucks. Everything sucks. The whole world sucks. Life sucks. I should just kill myself. Pause. Because is that truly how you feel? No. And sure, consciously, you're going to think, yeah, that's how I feel. What are you talking about? No. Because you dig deep into your true unconscious, how you feel, you're going to say, no, it's just, I'm struggling right now and I don't know what to do with myself because I can't get out. So what am I supposed to do? Think the whole world is over and just myself, right? No. Okay, so what do you do? How do you get out of that? Well, to start, you have to stop letting your ego get in the way. You have to recognize, hey, this is my ego talking. I shouldn't be listening to my ego, because ego is what gets in the way of what you truly desire and what you're truly meant for. And when people have big egos, that means they have this self-esteem. It's not, hold on. They have this perception of themselves that they have to maintain so that they can't see what's really going on in their unconscious. You know what I mean? They have these glasses on that they have to keep on. That's their ego. That's their consciousness. They have to keep that on in order for their unconscious to keep rolling the way it is without accidentally uncovering something, right? or intentionally. Because sometimes something will come rolling around in your life and then, you can't see that with the glasses you have on. Boom, it slips through. Like you look up and down, when you have sunglasses and you look up and down and sometimes you can still see outside of the sunglasses. Sometimes they may accidentally happen, and then what happens? What is this? These are not the glasses my ego let me see through. What is this? And then your unconscious freaks out and is like, looks like you have to figure out what's going on, because you have these unconscious patterns, these unconscious beliefs that your ego was trying to cover up so that you could keep moving on with your life without having to deal with any of it. So, what's the solution? Well, I kind of touched on it already, but when you're struggling, it can be really, really, really difficult to not let your ego get in the way. But here's the thing. You let your ego get in the way, you let this surface level consciousness get in the way, you lose control. Your ego is just this facade that you are in control, when in reality, the only way you can be truly in control of yourself is when your ego is pushed to the side, that's gone, disintegrated, and you're going through life with your unconscious mind that is connected to what you're doing. Because when you're ego-centered, or when you're using your ego to run your day, that means that you're hiding something unconsciously. There's something in the unconscious that you're refusing to accept. You need to hide it. You need to keep it hidden. You need to keep it pushed down and keep those emotions pent down. That means you're not in control. You think you're in control because you think, oh yeah, I'm going to hide it. And that's just that's just not, that's not how it works. Because what happens, then accidentally something comes rolling by in your life and is like, hey, what's up? And boom, gone. Your ego doesn't know what to do. It's freaking out. And then your unconscious is like, what now? And then you have a whole big freak out because your little fake reality just got disintegrated it freaks people out, because then all that false control you thought you had, gone. So how do you get real control? The only thing you can control is yourself. Your reality, you're at fault for whatever you're living right now. Even if it's bad things, because you asked for something and God is giving you that something. You wanted to help heal the world, and what does that take? You have to suffer so that all this suffering teaches you. You learn from the suffering, and now you can teach the world and make the world a better place. All the people that are helping the world right now, they've suffered. In some way, to some extent, they've suffered. There's no way to live a good life without suffering, because suffering is what makes you into the person you're meant to become. The only way to starve your ego and to really become who you're meant to become is to uncover your unconscious. And the problem is, think about it, you're starving your ego. That's a part of you. That's a conscious part of you. So is it going to hurt to starve that part of you? Yeah. It's going to hurt. It's going to suck, because you're not going to know what's going on. You're going to be freaking out. At least the ego part of you is going to be freaking out, because you're uncovering these unconscious things that you thought you could just keep pent up for the rest of your life. And your ego is like, what is this? This isn't how reality actually is. What are you talking about? This is not our reality. And what that does is it starves your ego, and then you get to create a new reality. And this happens because you're allowing what's going on in your unconscious to rise to the surface so you can deal with it, and so you can plant new trees in your garden. But you have to pull out the rotten trees first. You can't just cut off a branch. That's not going to do anything. You can't just cut it from the trunk, because then you still have the trunk there. You still have space taken up. And all the rotting from it can still spread. It can still reemerge, you know? So, what do? You have to pull it by the roots. And think about it like that. This is your garden. Your ego is a tree, or all these things are trees. Everything that in your reality is a tree. The top, the branches, all this is your ego. The whole top part of the tree that you can see is the ego. That's the conscious level. And then below the ground is the unconscious. You have to pull out the whole thing to really rewire your mind to think differently, to create a new reality. You can't just, I don't know how to describe it, but you can't just try to destroy your ego without really getting to the unconscious parts of it. Because I know that you can become humble and you can do all these things and still do it without touching what's pent up inside in your unconscious mind. And that's how people end up suffering even more, because you still haven't solved the problem. You haven't gone to the root of the problem, aka the root of the tree. You have to pull the roots out. Everything. Starve the ego and then take the roots out of your unconscious mind so you can have room to plant a new belief, a new pattern, something healthy. But your needs are being met by whatever reality you have created for your ego to continue pursuing. There's a reason you need this to keep going. So you need to figure out what it is that is, what's the need that is being met by your reality right now? What need is being met? Are you protecting your ego? Are you creating a false reality where you don't have to deal with your emotions because you're scared to be vulnerable? So you think you have control? Are you scared of not being in control? Because the thing is, in order to fully be in control of yourself, you really need to let go of control for a long time. That's the truth. Because think about it. You have this false version of control, aka what your ego believes, what your consciousness is pursuing. In order to starve that and to get to the root of the problem, you go into your unconscious, really introspect, and let yourself truly answer what you're asking yourself. All these questions you're asking yourself: why am I feeling this way? Why am I believing this? In order for that to happen, you have to let go of control. The false version of control, and you have any version of control that you think you had. You have to let it go. Because that's what happens when you release your emotions. It can be out of control. Because now you're crying. Now you're punching a wall, you know? And now what? You have to let yourself get out of control. Safely, obviously. Don't go abusing people. But sign up for a boxing class, or go drive to a random parking lot and bawl your eyes out. That's what I do. It works. And I also punching bags. So any type of way that works for you that's healthy and doesn't hurt you or the other people involved. Preferably do it alone, because this is something you need to be doing alone, because external influences can change how you act. You know what I mean. So you're going to lose control, and you need to let yourself lose control. And sometimes if you've been suffering through some pretty severe, deep stuff that you haven't let yourself think about and fully uncover, that's going to be rough. You know why? Because it's going to take a while. You know how long it took me for my deep stuff, my childhood trauma? It took a couple of years, and I'm still working through it. Obviously, it was very clumped together the first couple of years, the first 2 years. That was when everything, surface level, everything happened that I was getting over. I was in complete loss of control. And that's what depression is. It's when you lose control. I'll get into that in a different video. But I was depressed because there were so many things that were coming to the surface, and I am not the type of person to just let it push it down, because that doesn't work for me. That just doesn't work for me. That's why I'm here to teach you this now, because that's just what I was meant to do. I was just meant to suffer. That's a joke. Anyways, the 2 years that I was suffering from severe depression and all this crazy stuff, that was letting everything come to the surface, that even the simple things, even the little interactions, all the surface level things. And then the 2 years after that, I was fine. Like, mentally, I wasn't depressed, but there were parts of me that still had to heal from these things. And it's like, you overcome the really, 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 really big wave, and then you can get into the deeper water where there aren't as many waves, because you need to learn how to swim first, right? And being able to overcome those really big waves at first are what's necessary. And it can seem really scary, but it's actually not as hard as you think, because you're actually still in the shallow end of the water. You're still in the shallow end of your unconscious. There are really big waves coming up, but underwater, it's still shallow. And then you get into the deeper water where you can handle it, and you know how to swim, and you know how to react to these things properly and in a healthy way. And that's when the deeper stuff comes up, the little things here and there. It'll come up as you experience life. Like, you'll have interactions with people, you'll have friendships, and be like, oh. Because now you're able to really put your feet underwater, you know? You're able to swim, and you're able to be vulnerable. You've passed the test of those big waves, so now you're able to go into the deeper water. You know, it's like a swimming test before you can go into the big slide. You can't do that until you overcome those really big waves. And sometimes that can come in the form of severe depression, because if you've been dealing with severe trauma, it's like a pendulum. It swings really high one way, it's gonna go the opposite way, the same amount, to the same extent. So you may not be ready for that, but you gotta go through it anyways. It'll happen if you're ready or not. Nothing happens, you're never gonna be fully ready for anything, but that's for a different video. So, about the waves. You're gonna think that everything is crashing down on you, but the only way to really see what's really going on is to get through the waves. And then you'll see that those waves weren't really as big as you thought they were. You were just choosing not to stand up and move past them. You were choosing to stay and get drowned over them, you know? Get drowned by the waves. You thought that everything was out of control and that you couldn't stand up and get through this. But the more skilled you become at this, the more capable you will, the more you will learn to be able to withstand these bigger waves. Because think about it like this. You're going into the water, but it's not a sequential path. You're not just keep going in the ocean, right? Because you're going to get out of it. You're going to go home, you're going to go on with your life, and then you're going to go to the beach again. You have another problem. You have another wave to face. And then you overcome that wave, and then you swim, and everything is fine. And then you deal with all the very unconscious things, because there are things in your unconscious. I feel like it's hard to describe, but in your unconscious, I feel like there's a shallow end and then a deep end. Like, you let yourself think, like really let yourself think, destroy your ego, and then there's the shallow end stuff, the things that come to the surface that you think, and then all these things happen, all these emotions arise. And then there's the things that are really, really, really rooted in your unconscious mind, the deep end. The roots go really deep, and you may reject it, you may resist, but that's also your ego getting in the way. So don't let your ego get in the way. You know how I fix this? I didn't do any big, deep inner work or whatever. I started going to the gym. Because, so girls, they can do spiritual, they can just sit at home and think about it. But I was not that kind of person at the time. So I was in my masculine energy, as they say. So I was going to the gym, and that really destroyed my ego, because when you're a beginner at anything, it really humbles you, you know? So start something new and really, really, really commit to it. Because it's easy to be a beginner and then just give up and then move on with your life. Because the ego part of you wants you to give up. Because it can't handle the vulnerability and the lack of control. And it can't handle this rose-colored glasses being pulled off, you know? Because then it's like, oh wait, I'm not as perfect as I thought I was. I have weaknesses, just like everybody else. Oh no. Back to what I was talking about. And this is the finale part of it. Don't let your ego get in the way of your self-growth. Your resistance is your ego. Your ego is resisting whatever you're trying to think. When you can't create a new reality for yourself, check your ego. Because it's 100% your ego that's getting in the way. Because your ego is what stops you from really doing that deep work in your mind and really thinking about what's going on in your unconscious mind and letting you pull out those roots of those really painful experiences and letting you overcome them. So if you are struggling with getting your crap together, check your ego. Check your ego. And then once you've starved your ego, let your mind think. How do you starve your ego? That's I'll make a different video about that, because it's a lot. I have a lot to say about that, but you have to starve your ego. I'm going to give you an example. Don't do things that are instantly gratifying, instant gratification. Don't do that. Stop consuming. Boom! Problem solved! Because think of all the things you consume. That's instant gratification. You consume media, you consume food, you consume technology, you consume anything you consume. Put a pause on that. If you have an unhealthy relationship with it, of course. If you overconsume. Like, I used to overeat. What did I do? I No, I'm just kidding. No, no, I started fasting. But there was okay, next question. So an example to starve your ego is go outside. Let yourself think without consuming anything. Obviously water and food, that's fine. But some people, they eat food as an escape. So actually not with the food. Fast for the day, or actually, yeah, that's actually really good. I'm not telling you to starve yourself, but fasting also brings you closer to God. So that's why people fast, and I don't know if they do it in all the religions, but in the major ones. So fast for the day, go and think. Really let yourself think for as long as you possibly can. Go outside, look at the trees. Don't listen to music. That's consuming something. That's instant gratification. Don't watch anything. Don't play on anything. Don't do anything instantly gratifying. Get some water, and that's it. Just think. Things will pop up. And if they don't, ask yourself questions. Try to spark those thoughts. And if in your mind you're saying, oh, I don't know, that's your ego. Really try and push yourself. Push yourself to do it. Nobody's going to do it for you. I'm going to give an example. Let's say a natural disaster happened. Power goes out. Everything goes out. I am being starved of everything I could consume before and to distract me. So now I have nothing to consume that's instantly gratifying. So now I actually have to face my thoughts, and then all these crazy things pop up in my head, and then I start crying, and then I think the whole world's gonna end, and everything comes falling down on my face, and then a week later I'm fine. Why? Because I lost control. I became vulnerable. I let my thoughts come to the surface, and I dealt with them. And it sucked, and I thought the world was gonna end for a little bit. Here we are. Here I am. The world keeps turning. That was just my ego. That was just my ego telling me the world's gonna end. Everything sucks. But when I starved myself of all these instantly gratifying things, I also starved my ego. Because my ego requires these instantly gratifying things to avoid the things that my unconscious is trying to bring to the surface. So go and stop consuming instantly gratifying things. Do things that take, delayed gratification. Do those things instead. Or go out for a day, even for a couple hours. Just go out, don't eat anything, drink some water. Because when you fast, I don't know why, it's something scientific, but when you fast, your mind is able to think more clearly. That's why people intermittent fast. So, yeah, do that, and don't leave until you have brought something to the surface. Usually that you may start crying. Or you may get really angry, or you may get really pissed off. Let it happen, and don't push it down. Don't avoid it. Really feel those emotions. Really let them sink in. Let them not sink in, but release these emotions. You can do that through crying. You can do that through punching something. You can do that through journaling. And then boom, your ego is slowly getting starved. Your unconscious is slowly opening up to these new patterns these new healthy patterns that you can start applying into your life. Applying into your life. Because if you have a bad mindset, how are you going to put a new mindset into the same spot that the tree of the old mindset is, right? You can't just cut down the trunk. You need that space. Pull the roots out, and then you can plant the new mindset. See? Boom! Okay, thank you, YouTube. Sorry for the chopped clips. As you can tell, I'm not at my best today, but all is well. I'm gonna go on a walk and think about life. Have a nice day.